Hey, it's Lee here from Simplify Adulting, where we help people in their 20s navigate the complexities of adulting, especially in the areas of your money, your career, and just those daily adulting life responsibilities. Our goal is to give you tips, expert advice, tools, resources, and most of all, a community that you can feel supported in so you can go from adulting stress to adulting success. With that, we're going to jump into our topic, which is why paying the minimum on your credit card isn't going to cut it. So how many of you have opened up that minimum, your credit card statement, you see that minimum balance, you pay it, and you expect that you should see the difference in what you owe by the next billing cycle, right? By the next statement you get. And you're like, wait, I just paid that and like nothing's coming off. We're going to talk about why that is today and why the minimum payment is not what you should be paying on your credit card. So first, a couple disclaimers. First, I'm not a financial planner. I'm not in that world. So what you're hearing is kind of learned over experience and definitely some experience in my 20s. And secondly, we're going to be taking what I'm going to call a really simplistic view, which in reality, credit cards are super complex. There's lots of stuff going on in the background, but I think a couple of the concepts that we're going to cover today will make it possible for you to make some really good decisions. The third thing is my goal, my hope, I should say, it would have to be your goal, but my hope is that you can figure out how to live your life without using credit cards, especially in your 20s. And if you have already taken on credit card debt, my hope is that you'll be really focused on getting rid of that debt and also figuring out how not to use credit cards, especially in your 20s. They're just, it's a slippery slope with them. And I know that from personal experience. When I was in my 20s, definitely got into credit card trouble. And it made it so hard to get out of it, because all of a sudden you get on one credit card and you think you can handle it, or I thought I could handle it, and then that balance goes up, and then pretty soon it's like, wait, and then another balance, and it just kind of catapults on each other. And how I figured out this minimum balance thing was I had that same question, like, what the heck? I'm paying the minimum balances on these credit cards. Why isn't anything budging in terms of what I owe? So been there, done that, and now I want to share what I've learned so that you can make some decisions about how to start to whittle down that that credit card balance. So let's hop right into it. So first of all, really, what is your credit card balance? And the minimum payment, excuse me. So the minimum payment is basically what the credit card says to you is what you're minimally required to pay each billing cycle. And typically that's a month, right? So in the way the credit card figures this out is that sometimes they'll use a flat fee, but most of the time they're using some type of calculation to come up with some type of percentage of your balance. And that's what they're going to charge you. And again, typically, you know, we're using kind of rule of thumb here, but you got to read that fine print to know exactly what you're being charged in terms of to calculate your minimum payment. But generally, it's somewhere between 1% and 3%. So what this would mean is that a credit card company, so let's say their calculation is, hey, we're going to charge our credit card holders 2.5% of their balance to determine their minimum payment. So if you had a $10,000 balance and that was the case, you had a minimum payment percentage of 2.5%, it means that you would have a minimum payment of $250, right? So that is really how they come up with the minimum payment. And what's really important to understand about the cost, because there is a real cost of just paying the minimum payment. And what you have to understand is that, you know, that thing called annual percentage rate, which they say, oh, you know, whatever yours is, in this example, I'm going to say it's 24%. Well, that 24% is the interest that they're charging you to give you the privilege of putting that balance on their credit card. And it's really the bulk of that minimum payment is going to go to pay off the interest. Okay? But not the actual principal or the amount that you actually have as a balance. And that is so important to know. And we're going to talk through, an example of that. And what this means is that there's a really long road to getting to zero on this. So let's just say, I'm just going to talk through. So let's say we take that example, you have $10,000 balance and your minimum payment percentage was 2.5 and you had $250 minimum payment. And let's say you did have a 24% APR. And again, this is not exact math. This is just rounding. Of that $250, $200 would go to meet your interest obligation, and only $50 would actually go to pay off or go towards your balance to reduce your balance. So you got to understand that minimum payment is set up to kind of keep you in the long game of owing them money. So when I say long road to recovery, I want to give an example. And I love these different calculators that are out there. This is one. I'll make sure to put the link to this calculator in the show notes. But I just love these because they really just help you be curious, and it kind of helps you get grounded in what your situation is. But then it also allows you to kind of take some action because you can see the real information and real data. And so what I did is I put into this calculator this example of, hey, you have $10,000 credit, that APR or interest rate, basically the same thing, is 24%, and your minimum payment calculation is 2.5%. And so you can see that this came up with that $250. And what I want you to know, if every month diligently, on time, and God forbid you're not on time and you get fees, it makes the situation worse. But on time, if you just pay that minimum payment, it will take you 643 months, which is about 53.4 years to get rid of that debt. And not only that, over that 53 years, you're going to be paid almost $40,000. Yes, $38,000 just in interest for your initial $10,000 balance. And so you just start to see that minimum payment is a super long road to zero. So here is what's really key, is that this is all about getting rid of debt more quickly in your credit card debt. And we're going to do another video on APR and kind of the basics of that. But you really need to get out of credit card debt because they charge you a lot of money. There's a high cost to use the credit card company's money. And so, but I want to show you that one of the best ways you can do this is by paying more than the minimum each month. And I'm talking by any amount possible. You should set up automatic payments if you can for a fixed amount above the minimum. And guess what? If you get extra, and I'm talking you get a birthday gift, a holiday gift, I don't care, any extra money, you get a small bonus at work, you get whatever, you send that money immediately to your credit card company. You do not have to wait till they send you a bill, and you can apply that to your principal. Okay, so that's what you want to do. And please, please, please don't miss payments, because guess what? That small print probably says if you miss payments, you're going to pay an additional fee or additional interest. Something not good for your pocketbook is going to happen. And the power of this, thinking about really putting anything and everything extra you have towards your debt, your credit card debt, is so powerful. And I'm going to show you this example. So this same calculator, which I'm going to give you the link to, I changed it just slightly. I said, okay, still $10,000 balance, still 24% APR, your interest rate, still charging you 2.5% to calculate your minimum balance. But I said, let's say we did a fixed payment amount. So let's just say instead of the 250, I paid 275. So what fixed payment could you make monthly? Say I could just set that up and say I'm going to make 275. And then you hit that calculate button, and I want you to see the absolute difference that it makes. I mean, look at the difference from 643 months or 53 plus years down to 66 months, which is 5+ years. I mean, it's just, and then look at the interest you'll pay in that time, $30,000 less interest. So that power of those extra payments, and please go out, click on the link in the show notes to this calculator and play around and put in your information and start to see that it's not hopeless, right? This up top category at minimum payment is hopeless. And by the way, I think they kind of want to keep you hopeless because that's a really good return for them, right? They want to kind of keep you in this loop. And remember, this assumes that you freeze your credit card. So that's the other thing. If you have a balance out there, stop, freeze, quit using it, because every time you add to this, it's just adding and charging you more interest, and it's taking longer and longer to pay off that debt. So you got to freeze it and then give every penny you have towards it. So if you've got that credit card debt, put every penny you can. And I'm not kidding. If you get $25 extra in the middle of the month, you send it to your credit card company. If you do that 3 times, and if you can up your monthly payment, so if you have it auto pay, put it on there and commit that extra $25, $30, $50, $10. I don't care what it is. Pay more than the minimum, any amount that you can. And if you don't have credit card debt, keep it that way. Please, please, please keep it that way. It's a really expensive, and I'll be honest, high risk game to play in terms of managing your money. And boy, there's just all kinds of pitfalls that come with it. And you know what? Go out there and play with calculators. Play with this calculator so you can start to get a sense of what's possible. And then I think it's really like when you're curious about that and you're willing to go out and look at it and face those sometimes daunting numbers in the eye, put them in that calculator, and you start to go like, I wonder if I could do an extra $10. I wonder if I could do this. I wonder if I could do that. It really allows you to kind of understand where you're at, be curious, play with some ideas, and say, I can do that. I can do that. And then do it. And you go from hopeless to having a plan. It's that quick. You go from hopeless to a plan. And that doesn't mean it's all going to be easy and that there's not going to be hard decisions to make in terms of how you get that extra money, but it is totally worth it. So there you go. Those are my recommendations for you. And I do want to kind of take this rule of thumb to simplify adulting, and this really applies to credit cards. The amount of small print on anything, and if you go look at your credit card statement, there are pages of small print to the terms and conditions that we sign up for if and when we sign up for a credit card. It's a representation, an approximation of how complicated something is. So you really have to know, with all that fine print, you have to make sure you don't miss the stuff that's really impactful to you. And that would be understanding your minimum payment and don't buying into that's the only payment you should be making on your credit card debt. Well, there you go. I hope that helps you understand. I hope it gives you a path forward. And if you like this video, please click to subscribe. And if there's something you want us to talk about, please put it in the comments. With that, stay happy and healthy.